2 years ago, when I signed those divorce papers, I left everything behind, even Selena's lies about the apartment. We fought over everything back then, down to the silver car I once drove. I started over in a modest single-story house tucked into a quiet neighborhood. The grass was overgrown, and the coffee maker only worked if you smacked it hard enough, but it was peaceful. After everything I'd survived, that peace was priceless. The day had begun like any other. I had just gotten back from the gym, sweat still clinging to my shirt, when there was a knock at the door. Not the casual tap of a neighbor asking for sugar, but a hard, deliberate pounding that froze me mid-step. I peeked through the peephole and saw flashing red and blue lights behind two figures. My heart plummeted. When I spotted their uniforms, my mind scrambled. Unpaid tickets? Mistaken identity? Wrong address? I opened the door slowly. "Can I help you?" I asked, voice tight. One officer, broader than the other, stepped forward. "Are you Leo Carter?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "So, before we go any further, a child was found left alone in a car. That vehicle is still registered in your name. We need you to come with us." I went rigid. "A child?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "No, that's not possible. I don't have a child." The officer's tone remained steady, impassive. "I'm sorry, sir, but you will have to come to the station. You're listed as the legal owner of the vehicle. Until we figure this out, you're under arrest." I tried to explain. The car had been Selena's since the divorce. I hadn't seen it, touched it, or thought about it in years. I even said, "Check the paperwork." But it didn't matter. They cuffed me on my own front step, under the harsh, unforgiving daylight. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. A woman out walking her dog froze mid-stride and stared. I sat in the back of the police cruiser, eyes locked on the floor. At the station, they stuck me in a small room under buzzing fluorescent lights. My wrists throbbed where the cuffs had dug into them. An officer slid a manila folder across the table. "The child was found in a silver 2008 sedan," he said flatly, "still registered in your name." I shook my head, trying to clear the haze. "Selena took that car," I muttered. "She said she'd transfer the title. I haven't had anything to do with it." I paused, confusion swirling in my chest. Why would she leave a kid in it? The officer leaned back, arms crossed. "The child's at the ER now. Mild dehydration. Some bruises. Scared, but stable. His name's Jaden. We found a tag with it on his backpack." Jaden. The name meant nothing to me. Not really. Not then. My thoughts spiraled, chasing themselves in circles. After what felt like endless hours, they released me, but not without a warning. "You're not cleared yet, Mr. Carter," they said. "You're still involved until we know more." I stepped out into the thick evening air. My phone buzzed relentlessly. 12 missed calls. Voicemails from unfamiliar numbers, and one from Selena's mother. I ignored them all and headed straight for the hospital. I wasn't allowed past the pediatric ward doors. But Jaden, that name, it rattled around inside my skull like a song I couldn't quite remember. Eventually, a nurse led me down a hallway lined with cartoon murals, the air thick with the smell of antiseptic and a deeper, quieter sadness. I didn't know what I was walking into. But when I saw him, he looked so small, maybe 4, maybe 5, sitting up in a hospital bed, swallowed by an oversized T-shirt. His wavy hair was a mess, tear tracks still fresh on his cheeks, and the moment I stepped inside, his eyes locked onto mine. And those eyes, they were my eyes. It was like looking at a quieter, younger reflection of myself. The nurse leaned in and spoke softly. "He doesn't say much," she murmured. "Keeps asking for Selena. But when we mentioned your name, he paid attention." I took a careful step forward, my throat tightening. "Hey, buddy," I said, keeping my voice gentle. "I'm Leo." He blinked, silent, just staring. "I don't know everything that's happening yet," I whispered, "but I'm going to figure it out." The machines kept up their steady beeping. The sharp smell of disinfectant filled the air. But that moment was real, painfully real. If this boy was who I thought he might be, the nurse spoke again, voice low. "He's stable, just a bit dehydrated." No fractures, but he keeps asking for his mom. Selena, I asked carefully. She hesitated, then nodded. That's a name he uses. Do you know her? Yeah, I said quietly. I know her. She handed me a clipboard and gestured toward the room. I stepped back inside slowly. Jaden, that was his name, was curled up, knees tucked to his chest, absent-mindedly picking at a loose thread on the hospital blanket. When he lifted his face again, it slammed into me like a punch. His jawline, the shape of his nose, the way his eyes narrowed when he was scared, it was all unmistakably mine. I sank down onto the edge of the bed, voice barely above a breath. My name's Leo, I said again. He blinked slowly, giving a tiny nod. And your name's Jaden, right? Another small nod. My mom picked it, he whispered. I almost gasped. I remembered, years ago, back when Selena and I still dreamed about kids. She had laughed and said if we had a boy, she wanted to name him Jaden. She teased that he'd have my crooked grin and her thick black hair. I glanced at the nightstand. A juice box, some crackers, and a small stuffed lion sat there as if someone had tried to make him feel safe. But it wasn't enough. You were in a car, I said gently. Do you remember? His small face twisted with pain. He didn't answer. He just clutched the blanket tighter. That's okay, I said, reassuring him. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I was hot, he mumbled finally. I cried, but nobody came. My throat clenched. I'm so sorry, Jaden, I said softly. You didn't deserve that. He lifted his eyes again, searching my face. Do you know my mom? He asked, voice trembling. I nodded, slow and deliberate. Yeah, a long time ago, I trailed off. Then came the question that broke whatever was left of my defenses. Are you my dad? He asked. The words hit harder than anything else that day. I couldn't lie to him. Couldn't give him promises I wasn't sure of. I don't know yet, Jaden, I said, voice rough. But I'm going to find out. He dropped his gaze, uncertain whether to be hopeful or afraid. Maybe a little of both. I didn't reach for him. I just placed my hand quietly near the edge of his blanket. You're not alone anymore, I said, my voice breaking a little. I'm here, okay? The nurse returned, checking the monitors. And then, something I'll never forget. Jaden leaned forward and tugged gently at my sleeve, like he was asking me to stay. So I stayed. Sat there in that uncomfortable plastic chair with my back aching and a million questions spinning through my head. Because at that moment, it didn't matter what I knew or didn't know. His name was Jaden, and my life had just split wide open. He looked at me without a word, just those big brown eyes locked onto mine. And then, after a long pause, he asked, almost in a whisper, does that mean I can stay with you forever? Tears burned at the corners of my eyes. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. Yeah, buddy, I finally choked out. That's exactly what it means. Jaden leaned forward and wrapped his little arms around my neck. No words, no big scene, just a simple, certain hug that said everything. It gave me chills. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but it changed everything. From that moment on, he wasn't just a boy I met in a hospital room. He was mine, and I wasn't just a man chasing loose ends in the mall. There was no undoing it. I didn't know the first thing about being a father. Hell, most days I barely knew how to be an adult. My place wasn't built for a kid. Jagged furniture, messy cables stuffed under every table, the spare room crammed full of junk, blank walls I hadn't seen a picture in years. The fridge held more beer than food. The only kid-friendly thing in that entire apartment was me.